After years of terror, the hunt ends. But what they found was even darker. March 1996. A brutal winter still gripped Ukraine, but that cold had nothing on the fear spreading across the countryside. Whole families were being wiped out in their homes. People were sleeping in shifts, boarding up windows, keeping lights off at night like they were back in a war zone. In some ways they were. But the enemy wasn't an army. It was one man. Anatoly Onoprienko was now deep into his deadliest rampage. Between February and March alone, he murdered nearly 30 people. These weren't calculated hits. They were blitz-style home invasions. No warning, no mercy. He'd walk into a house, shoot the father first, then take out the rest of the family like it was routine. He even killed neighbors who came out to investigate the noise, but it wasn't just the killings. It was how clean he left the scenes. No fingerprints, no obvious links. Just ash, blood, and confusion. The police were overwhelmed. Ukraine's law enforcement system wasn't ready for someone like this. They didn't have the tools. They didn't even fully believe a single man could do all this. By mid-March, fear turned into pressure. Political leaders were demanding answers. There were whispers of international attention. People were calling for curfews. Some were moving away. Everyone had a theory. Was it a cult? Was it mafia-related? Some even thought it was a government cover-up. The truth was simpler. It was just one man, operating in plain sight. Anatoly didn't care anymore. If anything, he seemed to enjoy the chaos. He'd lingered longer at scenes, take little trophies, sometimes eat the victim's food. He didn't even bother hiding the weapon. One time, he killed a whole family, then used their house phone to make a call. He was getting sloppy, or maybe just arrogant. And then came the break. In one of the homes, a witness, a teenager, had survived. He saw just enough: height, build, general features, not much, but enough to build a sketch. Around the same time, the police received a tip about a man living in a small town who fit the description and was acting strange. He had no job, no real income, but somehow always had cash. They started watching him. That man was Anatoly Onoprienko. On April 16, 1996, authorities moved in. They raided the house where he was staying. His girlfriend's parents' place, actually. Inside, they found weapons, stolen items, and a pile of personal belongings that linked him to victims across multiple regions. There was no dramatic standoff, no shouting. He just stood there, calm, and said, "You got me." But what followed was even more chilling. He didn't deny it. He confessed, openly, proudly. He spoke with zero emotion. 52 people. That's what he said. Most were families. Some were random motorists. All of them, he claimed, were chosen at random. No motive, no hatred. He even described the murders in graphic detail, like he was reading from a grocery list. When they asked why, he said something that shook the room. He believed he was chosen, a tool of fate, that the world was overpopulated, and someone had to do something. He called himself a cleansing force, said he didn't feel pain, didn't feel guilt, said killing gave him a sense of control. He never smiled, never cried, just explained. Investigators were stunned. Some couldn't even finish the interviews. It was a kind of evil you usually only read about in fiction. But this was real. And it happened in small villages to ordinary people just living their lives. During the trial, the public was outraged. Families filled the courtroom. Reporters from all over Europe came to cover the case. His lack of remorse made it worse. He sat through testimonies like he was watching the weather. No reaction. When the judge asked if he had anything to say to the families of his victims, he simply said, "I'm not sorry. I did what I had to do." He claimed voices told him to kill. He said he was guided, but psychologists couldn't agree on whether he was insane or just monstrously cold. Some called him a psychopath. Others said he was a result of the Soviet orphanage system, abandoned, neglected, turned into something beyond human. Either way, the court didn't hesitate. He was convicted on all counts, 52 murders, sentenced to death. But Ukraine had just suspended the death penalty in line with European Union guidelines. So, his sentence was commuted to life in prison. He'd never walk free again. And in a way, that's what scared people more. He didn't care. He didn't fight the sentence. He just faded into this prison system. No final words, no apology, nothing. He lived in solitary confinement for years. In 2013, he died of heart failure. No ceremony, no mourners, just a cold, quiet end for a man who once brought an entire country to its knees. Even now, Ukraine hasn't forgotten. In those rural towns, people still talk about locking their doors at night because of what happened in the 90s. Parents tell their kids stories, not fairy tales, but warnings. Real-life nightmares, the kind that actually knocked on doors and came in without asking. What made Anatoly Onoprienko so terrifying wasn't just the body count. It was the randomness, the lack of logic. No pattern, no mercy, no reason. He didn't kill for money or revenge or even pleasure. He killed because he could. Because something in him broke a long time ago, and no one noticed until it was too late. His story isn't just about evil, it's about cracks in the system, about what happens when someone slips through every net. Family, school, government. It's about fear, the kind that spreads fast, sticks around, and leaves scars long after the killer is gone. Anatoly Onoprienko didn't wear a mask. He wasn't a monster from a movie. He was a man who walked among others, ate at their tables, rode their buses, smiled at their kids. Until one night, he didn't. And that's what still keeps people up at night, because sometimes the devil doesn't knock. He walks right in.